Greetings, gardeners. It's another wonderful day here on the big island of Hawaii. Hardly a cloud in the sky. Ocean view is great today. Nice horizon line. But I have other reasons for being happy today. I am overjoyed. I have finally figured out the proper timing to grow short day onions in Hawaii. Hawaii is famous for an onion called the Maui onion. Now we grow quote-unquote Maui onions across most of the islands. Technically they have to be raised on the island of Maui to be a Maui onion, but that's kind of what we generically call them. Their actual name variety is Granex hybrid. It's the same onion raised in Vidalia, Georgia, called a Vidalia, or the same one in Texas called the Texas Sweet. We raise that onion here too. It's a hybrid onion seed that is very, very low in sulfur. And if you have soils like they do in Maui, or like I have here, that don't have very much sulfur in them, we can raise an onion that is really sweet on these soils. Today we've got an awful lot of wind out here, and it's going to be pretty hard to film in this location. So I'm going to show you my onions that I'm happy about here. Aren't they beautiful? Look at them. Here's some daikon radish growing with the onions. Over here we have some arugula, and the onions are jamming up through them. But you can just see those beautiful bulbs forming out. The tops are really, really green yet, so that means that the bulb is going to continue growing nicely for quite a while yet. So these are going to get a lot bigger. They're just starting to bulb up. Over here we have Maui onion mixed with peanuts. Those little yellow flower guys next there are peanuts. Anyway, I am overjoyed about all of this because this is my third attempt to actually grow the Maui onion here. Where you live on the planet, what latitude line, is going to dictate what type of onion you're going to use. If you live up in the northern end of the planet, say from the Arctic Circle and 60th parallel, running south down to about the 40th or so, there the long day onion works well. Typically, most of the onion varieties you find for sale in seed catalogs are usually long day onion. Classic sweet long day onions, the Walla Walla, absolutely excellent. This is a fabulous onion, and it'll work between about the 35th and the 60th parallel. The Elsa Craig from England, this is another one that's a long day. It's a huge, huge thing. Big as volleyballs, big as your head. That one works fine. Now if you happen to live a little bit further south, then you're going to be using what we call a day neutral onion. So say from about the 35th parallel downward towards the 30th or so, right in that region, the day neutral onion is best. California's Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, we grew lots of wonderful onions around there. And we use the day neutral varieties mostly. The Stockton Red was always a classic in that region. Lately the California Red Burger has kind of taken that over. These are really good day neutral onions to use if you're along the 30th, 35th line. If you live further south than that, then say you live in Florida, Texas, Hawaii, Mexico, now we're going to start using the short day onion. Okay, the short day onions, they grow in Texas, so the Vidalia onion, which is famous in the market from Georgia, is the Granex short day. The Texas Sweets that are also in the marketplace, they're also the Granex. The Maui sweet or the Hawaiian sweet onions, again, same varieties. These are all onions that work better when you're south of the 30th parallel. Right here, we're on the Tropic of Cancer. It's the 20th parallel on the planet. That's the kind of onion that we like to use here. Now, as far as when you plant the seed and when you put it in the ground, now this varies a lot from location to location. Obviously, if you live in Minnesota, you're not going to have a lot of questions about when do you plant your onions. You know, the gardening season usually starts in maybe late April or May, and it's usually finished by September or October. So obviously the onions are going into the garden and coming out of the garden in that period of time. If you live in places like California or in Hawaii where we have long growing seasons, well, there's questions about when do these things go in. The onions are definitely responding to both the local climate conditions as far as whether they're going to grow well or not. I mean, onions tend to like cool, moist weather, so in California, obviously, they grow much better in the wintertime than they do in the summer. Here in Hawaii, things don't change very much from one end of the year to the other, but the onions definitely do respond to photoperiod. If they're in the wrong photoperiod, or that is the day length, then they don't seem to perform properly. The bulbs will not fill out, or they'll bolt the seed prematurely, or go through some form of stress reaction. So the onions that I planted here that were successful, this seed was sown in mid-November. It was transplanted somewhere right around New Year's or so. Now we're in mid-April. The onions are filling out very well. They were large enough I was able to sample one the other day with my cucumbers. It was really good too. But this seems to be, for me, one of the best periods of the year for the growth of onions. It's cool during this time. Little bit dry during the winter, but the rains have started to come now as the onion bulbs up, so it's working out. This is the third attempt for me to try to figure out exactly when does the Granix onion develop best in Puna. And it's looking to me like seeds sown in November and onions probably harvested around June. That really seems to be one of the best periods. But I'm going to keep experimenting with timing to see how many crops over what period of the calendar. The only way to figure that one out when you're living in an endless climate like this one really is just give it a try. Unless you got a guy next door that's been doing this for years and he can tell you all about it. So now let's take a look out in the garden and plant some onions. Okay, so I've already pre-prepared an area here for the onions. This region was developed by spreading weed block over the top of the sod. It killed the sod. You can see the straw from the grass laying here all over the place. Once the sod was dead, I went ahead and planted some mustard seed into it to kill nematode. Now I'm ready to start to plant onions, and so I came through, I ripped a trench in here with a V-hoe, and then I added some fish bone meal to it. Yesterday I had sprayed fish emulsion into the area, so we have nitrogen from the fish emulsion, and the fish bone meal brought us in a lot of phosphorus, which is also another deficient nutrient in our soils here. Then I went ahead and just cut a groove right down the middle of it after putting some compost over the top of the fertilizer. Now here we have Pumbo, and I'm going to take one of these cells, just like this, give it a squeeze, pop the onions out like that, okay? Then, just like we do with any other transplant, it's called shake and pull, shake and pull, shake and pull. There we go, like just like that, see? And the onions come right apart, no problem whatsoever. Alrighty, and then I just take the onion plants, lay them in the trench like so, on reasonable centers, about 4 inches apart, works fine for onions. You can put them closer if you want to, if you happen to be planning to thin the onions at a point, because you want green onions. So you can put them closer than that, and you can pull half of them out. Then I just hold the onions up straight like this, kick the dirt around them. Don't bury the growing point. The tip of the onion that's coming up out of the middle, you do not want to bury that, okay? Otherwise, it doesn't really matter how deep you bury an onion. It's not very important. The onion will put up with it. Here we go again. Shake, 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 shake. There you go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so got half a dozen plants that came out of one cell here.
Onions on burgers. French onion soup. Ooh, onion rolls. Oh, an onion tart. Man, I mean, there's all the things a guy can do with an onion. And the Maui sweet is tasty enough to actually eat it almost like an apple if you're a real onion lover. I am so tripped about my onions. I finally got it down. Most places I've lived in the past, I have been the onion king. I've always grown really, really nice onions. Onions, again, another one of my favorite crops, right along with corn and a few other things. I just love the onion. And finally having mastered planting it here in the islands, all things are perfect now that the onions are growing in my garden. Aloha, happy gardening, plant more onions.